Hey, how is everybody doing? Welcome to my Thursday live, which actually is going to be a bit different today. So I don't know whether you've seen my post earlier on today, but it's just going to be, I wanted this today to be more like an open discussion. I was going to do it on Zoom and so that I could have invited people in and join in the conversation that way, so we could have actually had it on video, but for some reason Zoom wasn't connecting to my page today, so yes, a little bit different. So if you are here live, just do please pop in a hello in the comments, and so that we can join in and we can have this conversation. Hi Natalie, lovely to see you. Hey Claire, lovely to see you. So let me know who's here live, and please, I want this to be interactive, because the reason why I said this is a different one today, I haven't got a script, haven't got any tips or anything like that that I would normally be doing. I wanted to actually have a conversation about, so I don't know whether you've seen the Davina McCall documentary last night on Channel 4, and actually I knew that was coming, and I'd actually been listening to podcasts, Liz Earle's podcast actually, and in the last couple of weeks she's talked about menopause, and it's one of those massive taboo subjects, isn't it? And to be honest, listening to the podcast from Liz Earle, and then yesterday the actual documentary from Davina McCall, I've just got really infuriated about this. So this is going to be so out of my comfort zone, because those that know me will probably know that I am not one for being showing my vulnerability. And one of the reasons why this subject, I've almost been ashamed and really embarrassed that, it's about 2.5 years ago, I started having some weird symptoms that I'd never had before and didn't know what they were. And I obviously know now that it's kind of like perimenopausal, but it's something we don't talk about. So I wanted to actually talk about my own experience, and hopefully also then just start a conversation to see how, if this is something that affects others, and whether we can just like get this out there, get this out to people, because it is one of those really frustrating things, and almost the fact that I didn't want to talk about it, and it's kind of like one of those vulnerability type things. Again, just shows you it's ridiculous really that it's because I've been embarrassed about the symptoms. So please, if you are here live and you want to just drop a hey in there and say hello, and let's have this conversation. One of the things that really came up last night which really resonated with me. Well, there was a couple of things that really resonated with me. So the first one was that, like I said, for me, it was about 2.5 years ago that, these symptoms started. And it started with kind of things like the night sweats, like waking up and dripping wet. So it started with those types of things. And then I had anxiety, and I've never had anxiety. To the point, I was at that point, when this all sort of started, I was still doing my corporate role. I was HR director. I'd never had confidence, those kind of confidence issues where I just doubted everything about me. And then it kind of got progressively worse. And, it's been a really big impact, had a big impact on my business, because of that anxiety that I just never had. Like I said, I never had it before, where you're literally questioning everything, absolutely questioning everything. There was obviously lots of, there was other symptoms as well. And I went to the doctors. Now, I think a lot of you that probably know my story was that, I lost my mom when she was 47 years old. She died of breast cancer. So when I went to the doctors and sort of said, these are my symptoms, could I be sort of, premenopausal? I was still having complete cycles, and I still have cycles now. So it's not as if I'm in menopause, but I was having these other symptoms. And, you know, basically the doctor sort of said, yeah, you could be, type of thing, you know, but actually, because of your history, you can't have HRT, can't even consider it. And your option is, my only option was antidepressants, which, you know, for me, that isn't an option. That isn't an option. I know for a lot of people that works for them, but that's not something that's not the road that I want to go down. And I was actually really sort of appalled that was the response, really. That was the response from my own GP about it. I did a lot of research then about, you know, the body identical, bioidentical gels and things and what have you. And I was then referred to like the menopause clinic. We obviously then went into lockdown, and was it? Yeah, no, actually, was it? Yeah, I was supposed to have. Yeah, the appointment took about a year to come through. Actually, I'm going back thinking about how long ago it was, and the appointment came through, but it was like months and months in ahead, and eventually we had gone into lockdown too, and so I couldn't have this appointment. But you know, I think one of the things that came up in what was in the documentary last night was just that seems to be the common approach. So please, if you are having the same sort of thing and you've got any tips and what have you, please pop them in the comments. Let's just, you know, have this, like I said, have this conversation. Hey Sam, lovely to see you. I actually, you know, going back a year, I actually decided to just do my own research, and I've gone down the kind of more of the holistic approach now. But I'm still, you know, get woken up at, hey Liz, lovely to see you. You know, for me, it was like, you know, the biggest problem that I've experienced is waking up at sort of 3-4 in the morning. If I can get 5 hours sleep in a night, I'm doing really, really well. And again, that has that impact on, you know, how I'm running my business and my life and everything. It affects everything. So, you know, that's still a problem. But I have gone down the kind of the homeopathic route. I've gone down the supplement route at the moment. But you know, I've actually now requested an appointment at that Louise, you know, the Dr. Louise Newson's clinic, which is only up the road from us in Stratford, actually. So I've actually done that. There's actually a 3-month waiting list for it. But, you know, again, you know, what I was just so shocked about yesterday in that documentary was I've obviously been told I can't have HRT. And when I heard, you know, the research that they did in the documentary yesterday, that this is going back sort of 20 years, they made the link between HRT and breast cancer. And you know what they said, that there was the survey at the time was done on people between the ages of 50 and 79. And you know, that is still the current research on it. And actually on the Liz Earle podcast as well, you know, the doctor on there was also saying that this stuff is you know, it is 20 years ago, and actually doctors at medical school are not actually trained in menopause, you know, so there's very few doctors that are familiar with, so they, you know, this antidepressants is like, you know, their go-to for it. And you know, the standard is if you've got a family history of breast cancer, you then can't have it. There's no other options, there's no in-betweens. I eventually had my menopause clinic appointment a couple of weeks ago, and so that's a year later than when I was supposed to have had the appointment, and it was a telephone conversation. And basically the doctor that I spoke to sort of said to me, oh, actually that's quite old advice about the link with breast cancer and family history of with HRT, but actually he still only prescribed me antidepressants. He still did, you know, that a couple of weeks ago. So like I said, for me, I've now gone to the Louise Newson's clinic. I'm waiting for an appointment for doing that. So I think it was, you know, just for me, it's, you know, if you've experienced this, you know, this going on for you, please, you know, let's just have a conversation. You know, let me know in the comments, what are the particular symptoms that you have and how has it affected you? You know, lots of the symptoms we just don't even want to talk about because they're so personal, aren't they? So, you know, it is one of those that, again, there, I think what came out of last night, if this was, and I'm not sexist or anything like that, but if guys were having these types of symptoms, this would have been, you know, this would have been dealt with by now, wouldn't it? It would have been dealt with if that was the case. So, you know, if you've got any advice, if you've got any, you know, I know that there was one lady on my post earlier and sort of talked about changing diets and things like that. Any of you that have got the advice on dietary changes and what have you, then, you know, please do pop them in my group, pop them in the comments here. It'd be brilliant to actually see what has worked for other people, and let's see if we can actually just start getting this conversation out there. You know, I know it's, you know, again, you know, if you're like me, it's really embarrassing, and in fact it was quite funny. You know, I've been obviously in the last couple of weeks listening to the Liz Earle podcast and then, you know, the documentary. I've been really venting off at home about it all, how frustrating I am about it. And, you know, so my husband last night said, oh, I think